Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Why don't you just grab a seat? Grab a seat right in front of you. Your picture, and I'll grab a seat here. Just a reminder, there is a chance for you to send in your questions, so please do so via Pigeonhole. Let's just put up the QR code for the folks here again, so you can scan it, put in those details, and send in your questions, and I will bring it to Jeff. But I'll get the ball rolling first. So I like that pepper crab example. I mean, it makes sense, right? Based on, it's doing the work for us. Normally we'll scroll through, look at reviews, see what the people have said, but it's doing all that. So when I go eat the crab, because the algorithm said, or the data said I should go, has it influenced my decision? Because now I expect it to be better than it really is if I had done the homework myself, you know?
But when you read a review of a restaurant and somebody's pumping up the restaurant or the movie or the book or whatever, right? It also changes your expectations.
That's right.
So, but the difference is the algorithm ideally is not trying to sell you on it. It's trying to just give you the data.
So it's unbiased.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Unless you just get a whole bunch of friends to write really good reviews and fill up the database.
Right.
So, okay.
But then the AI noticed that the health agency has negative ratings on the health rating, and right, so it can compensate for the...
Okay. So the more information it has, I guess, yeah, the better it's able to predict, the better it's able to help us make decisions. And that's the whole idea, right?
Right.
It's supposed to be a tool for us to make more informed
So there's
decisions.
this famous grandmaster of chess, Garry Kasparov, and he was famously beaten by a computer, Deep Blue, right? And that was supposedly the end of humans playing chess. And Gary has continued to play chess. And one of his observations is chess now has evolved to where the best players work with computers. So computers can beat people. People can't really beat computers. But a person working with a computer can beat a computer.
Okay.
So it's really this relationship between people working with the machines are the highest performing combination, not just a single machine.
Okay.
And that tells me that there's something that the human has that the machine doesn't, and there's something the machine has that the human doesn't. And so I think that's why in the future, these fusion systems, decision systems that involve humans and machines, I think will be the best.
So in a way, it's just a matter of the fact that I have better tools. Instead of digging a hole with a spade, I've got an excavator.
Right.
I can definitely dig a bigger,
It's just we're really excited about this excavator because it's new and shiny.
Okay. So can all our real-life issues, because you said this at a Black Hat event in Vegas last year, AI is having a massive impact on our society. It's forcing us for economic reasons to take all of our problems and turn them into prediction problems.
Right. Right. So what I touched on was these generative systems are really good at making predictions. So if I was a business leader or a government, I would try to figure out how to turn my problems into prediction problems, because then I can unleash the power of AI. And if I can't take a problem and I can't convert it into a prediction problem, AI might not be that useful for me, right? So you can start thinking now how to collect data or how to phrase your problems as a should I do X?
Okay. And how much can we rely on these predictions? I mean, like years ago, we all watched that movie, Minority Report, where, I predict that you will commit a crime in the future, and therefore...
Yeah, so that stuff drives me crazy. Because I was a criminal justice major, and about 10 years ago, there was this craze in predictive policing, and the idea was that these predicting predpol systems would gather all this data, where their cars are being broken into, and crimes, and fires, and time of day, and then they would predictively tell the police where to go to reduce crime, right? Kind of like Minority Report. But the problem is, the more you look for crime, the more crime you find. And it just sent all the police to the poorest neighborhoods where the minorities were, right? They were already underserved by government services, and it just exacerbated all the stereotypes. When in reality, without the predpol system, you could have just sent cops to the same neighborhood and still found problems. Because these systems don't detect white-collar crime. They don't detect fraud, right? So anyway, and the systems never suggest how to improve this problem. How do you reduce car thefts? Well, that's not what the system does, right? It's just like sticking more and more Band-Aids on the problem, never actually helping you address the underlying problem. So that's why
Okay.
Those minority report type systems drive me crazy because they're like, let's go arrest the person instead of our education system is malfunctioning and we're going to produce more criminals. Let's fix the education system. Instead, the movie's always like, no, let's just go catch the bad guy.
But at the same time, it can tell you which parts of the country have more crime. And
that are reported, more reported crime.
Okay,
right.
Okay. So, okay, I'm going to start taking a whole bunch of questions coming in. There's one saying, how can we tell if the decision by the human is badly influenced by AI?
Badly influenced.
Because, well, you're saying the AI information is unbiased, but at the same time, I guess, can you?
I mean, absolutely people are trying to bias models right now. I mean, just look at what's happening in search. The AI systems are being trained to get better search results. And so they're fighting it out right now in all the search engines, and that's why in the last year, all the search results start to look the same. And the models are starting to learn what ranks highest, and at some point there's a diminishing return, and then all the results are going to look the same, and they're all going to be poisoned. But it's just like anything else, right? If you read a review from the Restaurateur magazine, and you've tried the food 3 times and it's not working for you, if the AI system suggests it 3 times and it's wrong for you, right, you just decide something different.
Or change AI.
Yeah, you adjust something, say, no, not spicy enough.
Okay, here's an interesting question. I'm not sure how. Will the feeling be different if we based on AI to review my dating life, my life partner? Can that help?
We'll have, so there's maybe not a direct answer to this question, but there's been studies done about who can you date or who's a compatible life partner. And it turns out that there's no shortage of compatible life partners. There's plenty of people that you're compatible with. In every square kilometer, there's thousands. The difference, the hardest problem in dating is meeting them. It's not that they don't exist. The problem is meeting them. So if AI can create situations, an opportunity for you to meet someone, your dating life will improve.
Wow.
But it's not that the people are incompatible. You just don't meet enough people.
Wow, that'll be interesting. You can say, so how can I meet Jennifer? And it arranges, take the subway on
right.
Thursday, 9 a.m. There's an 80% chance you'll be on the same train.
The profile of the people you're interested in generally run around the reservoir on Saturday morning. Great. I'll go run around the reservoir on Saturday morning, and maybe I'll have more opportunities to meet them.
You know, that could actually work. That would actually make sense, right?
I suggest bringing a small dog, because women like the small dogs.
Or babies, you know. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another question. Prediction versus decision making. At which point does it become gray? Wouldn't the machine be smarter as it goes along to, at some point, cross the line into decision making?
Absolutely. Or humans get lazy.
Yep.
And so I have a really terrible example I'm going to share with you right now, because it just came out last night in the news. But in the Israeli offensive in Palestine, an expose was just written last night where the Israeli IDF have been using an AI system to create kill lists and target who to bomb. The system's called Lavender, and the whole idea was that in the beginning stages of a conflict, you don't have enough people to figure out which adversaries to go after. So if you can automate that, you can create targeting lists faster. So they built the system, but what happened is no humans reviewing the targeting list. They're spending a couple of minutes to make sure that the person is male and not female, and then they sign off on it. So essentially, the kill lists are now auto-generated by AI. That's not the intention, right? That whole decision-making part still needs to happen, but they're taking the prediction part and just running with it. So that's the danger. The danger is that, well, the system must know more than I know,
right.
So why would I second-guess the system?
Okay, so in a way, you've become reliant on the information, and you get lazy.
Right, or it's a new system. It's brand new. It's new to us all. It's being sold to us as this magical solution. It's not being, when we don't have enough experience with it to know when we should question it yet, because it's so new.
Right.
We don't have that, antibodies built up to like, no, isn't that strange that the targeting system is throwing out thousands of people a day? That seems like a lot more bad guys than we really have.
So that is one of the big questions many people have. AI is still relatively new to many, and to many businesses especially, and even many governments. They're like, how much should I implement? How much should I adopt AI? Or should I just take a wait-and-see approach? Should I wait? Is a lot going to change in the next year?
So the people using it most successfully are people who are already using prediction systems. So this would be like, should I buy containers for shipping right now? Insurance companies, high-frequency trading. So taking out your old algorithm and putting in an AI algorithm, those are the early adopters, right? Because they already are familiar with prediction. They're just putting in a better prediction model. But what's happening then is the next order of companies down that are not so familiar with doing prediction, they'll be the next to adopt and the next to adopt. And so it's really moving from these specialized type insurance companies into the rest of the market.
So in other words, in some areas, you can go forth and try it out, but in some
Or they
areas...
already are. They have been for years, right? And or the other thing is, I just want to point out when we're talking about AI, really there's sort of AI it's not AI. First of all, it's not artificially intelligent. Almost 99% of the stuff is not even machine learning. It's really statistical inference, right? It's just running complex statistical models and making predictions. And the other joke with AI is that AI stands for absent Indian, right? Because these models are being trained by thousands and thousands of Indians in a warehouse, tagging data and images, right? There's no magic going on here. It's thousands of people saying that's a lettuce, that's an apple, that's a banana. It was revealed in San Francisco in Waymo self-driving cars. For every car that was driving around, there were 3 people in a warehouse somewhere watching that car, right, making adjustments. Amazon just shut down their grab-and-go checkout, where you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and walk out. And facial recognition and a barcode, and it would know what you've taken, and it would know what to bill you. That was 1,000 Indians in a warehouse watching what every person did in the store. That wasn't AI, right? And so I think we're still really in this hype cycle.
There are a few questions based on the predictive model, saying a lot of it has to do with the data that you have. You know, how important is it to improve the accuracy by giving it better information? I mean, is there a way we can control the kind of information it draws from?
Yeah, so there's two things there I think going on. One is sort of the out of control, crawl the internet, collect all the data models. And in that environment, there's untrusted data, and the model's learning on untrusted data, and no matter what you do, the data is going to be untrusted. It's out of your hands, right? People are trying to poison the data to get different results, and people are trying to unpoison the data. That cat and mouse game is never going to end. The difference, though, is there's a separate type of data, and that's the data you control. You are, say, General Motors, and you feed it all the data you have on crash safety tests and engineering and how hinges are designed and whatever it is, videos on how to train engineers better. And then your General Motors engineers can go there and say, I'm designing a door, what's the best hinge with the lowest failure rate? And the system can teach you. That's fantastic, but that's your data in your model. But if you went to the internet and said, teach me how to design a hinge or whatever, who knows? And that's not really relevant to the General Motors engineer because it's not General Motors stuff. And so I think what's going to happen is you're going to have all these bespoke systems designed for your situation, right? I'm a heart surgeon. Well, I don't care about other data. I only care about medical studies that have been vetted. Right? And then you're going to have sort of this Wild West generative system of show me a picture of a Christmas tree. I think the true business value is ultimately going to be in the private data, solving business problems faster, governmental problems faster. The public data, I think, is going to be fascinating to get trend analysis and predict maybe where the tourists are going to go, but it's fundamentally different, right? What you can do with untrusted data versus your own data. Okay. Because if you trust the data, you can create models that are not totally predictive, they're reversible. So you can say, I get a confidence, 80% sure this is the correct answer, and here's why. But if it's more of a predictive model, every time you ask the question, the model might spit out a different result. And it can never tell you why it's making the decision. It's non-determinative, right? But if I'm in business, I need to deterministically know why it's saying this is the best hinge.
Right.
But if it's like, where should I ski this winter? I don't necessarily need to know exactly why it's chosen each, right?
So in that sense, and this is linked to a question someone's asking, it's not about the machine. I can train the AI, but do I need to train the people using the AI?
Well, yeah, and I think there's two things going on there. One is, can you code into software a principle, right? Like a medical principle, do no harm. Can you code that into an AI system? You know, the Communist Party in China is really trying hard to create generative systems that conform to appropriate thought, political thought. I don't know if you can do that, because that requires a certain amount of understanding, right? And so, I'm unclear if principles can ever really be coded. And the other thing is transparency and accountability. Only reversible systems can kind of give you this transparency. But reversible systems are more expensive, and they're slower to produce, and they're not necessary for like generating a picture of a Christmas tree, right? And so I think picking the right kind of model for the right kind of problem, it's like picking the right tool,
right,
is going to become important. And humans will have to pick the tool for the problem.
So, and you do need to train the human to use that tool, which has been customized for that purpose.
Right. Now, the other one might work, but it might give you really crappy results.
Right. Okay. Okay, here's another fun question. Can you help me pick the 4 winning numbers?
That's right. Only if it breaks into the system, right?
So that's is that a challenge? No.
Yeah, there are definitely limits to it.
But I guess that does lead into a question of people saying, how do I regulate this? How do I control, how do I audit the AI system? It's got all this information. Who's checking the AI?
Yeah, nobody right now.
Yeah.
And part of that's by design. So there's a couple jokes going on. One is that there's really only 3 AI companies in the world, and everybody else is an AI company is trying to be bought by those 3, right? So it's like you're trying to create a networking company to get it bought by Cisco or whoever. And so what advantages do those 3 companies have, essentially? They have unlimited compute. And there's a reason why OpenAI was so successful, because Microsoft gave them $1 billion of compute. Until that happened, AI did not take off, right? The scientists knew that there were probably some thresholds in the future where there could be breakthroughs, and they thought there was 5-10 years in the future. And then OpenAI threw $1 billion of compute against the problem, and we had these breakthroughs because they found the thresholds of where certain things happen. Before that was speculative. Nobody knew. Now we know. And so I think there'll be a couple other situations, but it's this winner-take-all mentality that's fueling sort of unlimited investment. But I think down the road what's going to happen is you'll have these 3 giant AI companies, and you'll have all these people making these specialized models, right? Like OpenAI might generate a great tool. You'll license that tool, and then you'll populate it with that medical information, right? Because you have the information, you're never giving it to OpenAI, but they have the best model, the best tool for you to put your data in. And I think that's where we'll ultimately end up. So who regulates it? Well, in the end, as long as that model does what it says it's going to do, then I'm responsible for the data that's put into that model I've licensed.
Okay. In a way, it sounds like having just either your Apple Store or your Google Play Store.
Right.
And then you put in the apps, right? Everyone else is an app supplier.
Right, because OpenAI will never understand how to build or collect the data to do the heart surgery model, but it might have a great health system model that you can populate and tune.
What about the ethics behind this? And how do you see cybersecurity playing in the development of ethics in the field of AI?
Okay, so there's maybe not cybersecurity, but first off, I brought up earlier, who do you sue? Who is responsible, all right? The other one is there's this terrible AI cycle right now going on, which is, it goes something like this. Sorry, person of dark skin color, but we don't have enough data about you in our model. So that's why our model tends to favor Caucasians. So why don't you just give us all of your data, and then we won't discriminate against you? I mean, it's kind of like blackmail. Like, well, sorry, our models are so terrible for insurance, why don't you just give us all of your data, and then our models will be better? And if you don't, sorry, we'll overcharge you for insurance. And so it's a vicious cycle, right, if you subscribe to this. Because then the only way to solve it is to, all the data of the world has to go in the model if we want to be fair. Right. So I think that is a danger.
But at the same time, that makes sense. For me to build a more robust, more secure system, let's say for my country, I need more surveillance cameras, which means there's less privacy because right. I need to see more of it. So does it come, is it?
Yeah, but so the problem is surveillance cameras don't stop crime, right? It helps you investigate crime, right? The camera doesn't jump down in between me and the mugger and stop you from robbing me, right? It's just after the fact. The horse is out of the barn and the barn door is now open and the camera gets to tell me, the barn door is open. And so I think you just have to be careful about what we think these systems will end up doing for us. And there's another part which is, in the internet, there's this adage, which was you be strict in what you send and you be liberal in what you accept. And this is how traffic passes on the internet, right? So we can talk to each other, we have open standards. And I'm curious if there's the same kind of mentality in AI, right? Are these principles in like, we train data in one way and we generate data in another. And what some of these questions suggest are, you should be really strict when you're generating data to be as accurate as possible, because that will inform the decisions later and have many follow-on effects. So right now what people are doing is they're trying to freeze all the data on the internet from about 2 years ago before these AI models started poisoning everything. And those will become reference data sets. The pre-AI internet will be trained on because it hasn't been poisoned yet. But anything that's being generated now is very suspect.
Does that really make sense? That's like saying, let me go back to the encyclopedias.
Right.
That's
it
my
wasn't
reference
changed,
point. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would be training it on newspapers, magazines, anything that a human has actually put energy into, right. Not that's been automatically created.
I think the CNA website is a pretty good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
High value.
Not that I'm biased,
I think there's a raise in your future for generating high quality data.
Yeah, and I guess it does siphon out after a while. It is able to figure out which are the more credible sources versus the less credible, just like human beings are. Just got a few minutes left.
Sure.
Is AI really just a tool, a resource? Will it ever come to the point where it will be replacing, like it says here, replacing surgeons, replacing some of the actual work that we do? What do you think?
Only if you're okay trying to sue the robot.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if there's like I talk to the surgeon and they understand my risk tolerance and how risky and, they tell me my family history and like, does the robot do that? I don't think so. I could see the robot working with the surgeon will get the best outcome, just like Gary Kasparov working with the computer gets the best chess outcome. I really think it's going to be these fusion systems. I think where the AI systems will be great at in cybersecurity is removing all the boring work. So you're a SOC analyst and you're getting millions of lines of logs. Like, let's get the AI system in there. Right? Free up the SOC analysts from being burned out and have them focus on the 20 or the 10% interesting log entries. Because that's what humans are good, problem solving. Just automate that. So you might say, well, that's going to fire all the SOC analysts. But there's more than enough work right now. And if I talk to my friends who are SOC analysts burning out, they're like, no, bring the robots. Bring the robots in. I want to do the interesting work. I don't want to do the repetitive looking at the logs work.
That's right. So if AI were considered a superhero, what would the costume look like? What superpowers should it have to help us?
I would tell you, the superpower costume will be a mirror, and you will see in the mirror whatever you want to see in the mirror. People see in AI what they want to see. And it's kind of like people fear what they don't understand. And if you don't understand AI, you're going to fear it, which is going to lead you to all kinds of weird decisions. But if you understand it, you're going to look at that thing and you're going to say it's going to solve every problem in the universe, right? It's going to reflect back what you want to see in it. So that would be its superpower.
So can AI itself solve the problems, or is it still? I mean,
it doesn't. I don't think
it's a tool, right? It's
right. It doesn't
resource.
solve the problem, but what it might do is accelerate the problem. So here's an example in software security. If you can use AI to automatically rewrite software source code that's vulnerable and rewrite it to be less vulnerable, fantastic. Now you have less vulnerable code, which means you have less exploits, you have less incident responses, you have less downtime, right? So the tool doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but it can sweep away the vast, majority. And the reason why I bring up automatic code rewrite is because that's where all the research, a lot of the research is happening right now in security, right? Automatically rewriting C into Rust or Go, because that's sort of the next stage at which we're ready.
So if AI is so good, then can it also help us predict the possible failures that will come from our planning models? Like I'm using AI to do something now. Can another AI predict where I'll go wrong?
It can probably identify where the relationships are overly complex, and then it can say chaos is here or super complicated here. So these are more likely to be the places of failure. The more complicated it is, the harder it is to predict failure. So that's like the known unknown.
Right.
Look here. And this is what code is doing. It can look at some software. Microsoft has a great system for this they use internally. They've designed over 7 years, which it looks at their source code and says, here's the riskiest part of the source code. Look here first.
Will it differentiate and say, okay, because it's user Jeff, the failure chance is only 20%. If it's user Steve, it's 80%. Will it help in that situation?
Well, in the end, it'll say, like, very unusual that user Jeff is logging in at 2 in the morning. Maybe have a human look at that, or maybe pay more attention, right? Because that's anomalous.
Okay. And there was one more question as we wrap up. So at the end of the day, is AI good or bad for us?
Oh, it's definitely good. It's just we're going to go through a really rocky period here. In the beginning stages as we all try to figure out what it means. So for example, Apple, better facial recognition on your photos, right? Better voice dictation. All the boring stuff that AI does that you don't think about, Apple has been incorporating in their devices for years, right? That gives you a better user experience with AI and you don't even notice it. What you notice is this generative stuff because it's so exciting and new. But I think in the end, the big value is going to be the sort of stuff behind the scenes you don't even know about. Right? You just get a better cost of apples because the apple picker has predictively planted the seeds at the right time. Right? You don't know about that, but your life has slightly cheaper apples or slightly less wastage on apples. Right? But right now, our mind is all wrapped up in this crazy, exciting generative stuff, but the value is going to be elsewhere.
But is there a danger that now we don't even think twice about biometrics for our phones, where generations from now, same thing. For them, it's ubiquitous. It's just the way life is, right?
Right, and the apple growers will be competing with each other on who's got the better algorithm or AI model for planting the trees and the weather changing pattern of climate change, right? You're going to need predictive systems to help you adapt. Because all the old farmer wisdom is not going to probably work in the future of rapid climate change.
Right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We have run out of time. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.